Have you ever wondered why it hurts so much? Why, even when everything seems to be right, there is this constant weight in your chest, this feeling that something is out of place. Maybe you have tried everything. Meditation, advice from friends, ignoring the pain by pretending to be okay, and yet the suffering remains like a shadow that silently follows you. Let me tell you something that maybe no one has dared to say to you until now. The majority of your suffering doesn't come from the outside world, it comes from within, from the things you refuse to face, from the parts of yourself you've left behind. Carl Jung, one of psychology's most brilliant minds, once said, "What you do not bring to consciousness returns as fate." And that's exactly what's unfolding in your life. Reality is trying to reveal something to you, but you're not listening. You keep running. You cover it up with distractions, with addictions, with shallow relationships. You convince yourself it'll fade, but it never really does it? Because that pain doesn't want to be buried, it wants to be seen, to be understood. This video is not just another piece of cheap self-help content. I am not here to give you ready-made phrases or magic solutions. I am here to provoke you, to challenge you, to face what you hide even from yourself. Give me a few minutes of your time, just that, and I will show you why you suffer so much and how this can end not with tricks, but with awareness. Maybe right now you're at the bottom of the well. Maybe you're on the edge of a breakdown, smiling outwardly, yet screaming silently within. Or perhaps you figured out how to live with the pain, treating it as if it's simply a part of who you are. Whatever your situation is, there's a difficult truth I need to share with you. The suffering lingers only because you haven't yet found the courage to face its root. Jung spent his life exploring this shadowy landscape, the depths of the human soul. He understood that only those who are willing to descend into their own darkness are able to discover real light. So, if you are willing to face this with me, I promise you one thing. By the end of this video, you will not be the same. Because what you will discover here can completely change the way you understand yourself, your pain, and your freedom. Let's begin. You might believe your suffering stems from the world around you, from the boss who undervalues you, the partner who misunderstands you, the weight of financial burdens, the noise of social expectations, or the constant pressure to meet standards that were never yours to begin with. And yes, those things carry weight. Yes, they press on you day after day. But what you may not have seen clearly, what perhaps no one has truly told you, is this: the deepest kind of suffering, the one that leaves you hollow even in moments of silence, doesn't come from out there. It begins the moment you separate from who you really are. Carl Jung once said that the greatest tragedy of the soul is to live a life that does not belong to you. And that is exactly what so many of us are doing. From a very young age, you were shaped, not nurtured into your truest self, but molded to fit. You were taught to behave, to follow, to adapt, to please. You were rewarded for being what others needed, not what your soul truly was. And slowly, without realizing it, you stepped away from yourself. You abandoned the wild, raw, honest parts of your being. You traded them in for masks, acceptable ones, expected ones, roles you never chose, but felt you had to play. You learned to keep the peace by quieting your voice. You hid your longings, restrained your rage, tucked away your sadness, and disguised your fear. You buried your truth so deeply that now, when you look in the mirror, you might not even recognize who's looking back. That's not just confusion, that's disconnection. That's the ache of a soul that has forgotten its own name. And here's what makes it even harder. You've become used to it. You've adapted so well to the performance that it feels normal. But the soul doesn't forget. It always remembers. And when it's forced to live a lie, it finds a way to scream through anxiety that won't let you rest, through sleepless nights where the mind won't shut down, through guilt that doesn't make sense, and through a quiet numbness that makes everything feel dull. Emotional pain is not random. It's not weakness. It is the soul's alarm system, a signal that you are betraying yourself again and again. And here's the hard truth. It's not failure that tears you apart. It's the illusion you've built about who you think you should be. It's not loneliness that destroys you, it's the emptiness of being with yourself and realizing you don't know who that self is anymore. And it's never really the other person who hurts you the most. It's you every time you abandon your truth to be accepted, every time you silence yourself to be loved, every time you pretend just to keep the peace. And as long as this internal fracture exists, as long as the disconnection between your true self and the version you perform for the world remains, your suffering will linger. Because you are trying to mend an external world while ignoring the wound that lives at your very core. You're applying bandages to symptoms while the root goes untouched. But here's something you need to hold on to. This pain is not your punishment, it's your invitation. Jung didn't view suffering as an endpoint. He saw it as the beginning, as the first necessary step toward transformation. Pain, in his eyes, wasn't the enemy. It was the compass, the crack that lets you trace your way back home. Because pain at its root is a messenger. It is there to pull your attention back to the parts of you that have been silenced, neglected, forgotten. The parts of you you've disowned in order to survive. And healing doesn't begin when you suppress that pain or distract yourself from it. Healing begins when you listen. When you stop running from your shadow and instead sit with it. Jung believed that what we refuse to face within ourselves returns to us as fate. Not because life is cruel, but because life is always trying to bring us back into wholeness. What we deny doesn't disappear, it waits. And it manifests again and again in our relationships, our choices, our breakdowns, until we finally decide to confront it. That confrontation is not easy. It requires courage, the kind that faces danger, but the kind that sits with discomfort. The kind of courage that peels back the layers and asks, where did I abandon myself? What part of me did I bury to be accepted? Who was I before the world told me who I had to be? These are the questions that begin the journey inward. And that journey is not a straight line. It will feel like falling apart at times. It will require grieving the life you built that wasn't really yours. But beyond that, grief is something real, something alive, you. Reconnecting with yourself means breaking old contract zones you never agreed to. It means unlearning the lies that said you are too much, or not enough, or only worthy when you meet certain conditions. It means reclaiming your voice, your needs, your anger, your joy, your boundaries, your light. And no, it won't make life instantly easier, but it will make life real again, honest, alive. Jung taught that wholeness is found not by becoming perfect, but by becoming complete, by embracing all that you are, even the shadow. Because when you finally face what's inside, when you meet the truth you've been avoiding, the suffering begins to shift. It doesn't vanish overnight, but it transforms. From something that crushes you into something that awakens you. So if you're feeling lost, broken, numb, know this. It's not because you are weak, it's because you are disconnected. But that disconnection can be healed. Not by fixing the world around you, but by remembering who you were before the world changed you. This isn't the end, this is the threshold. The beginning of your return. In the next part, we will talk about the most dangerous and, at the same time, most liberating force of the human psyche, part you fear the most, but which holds the secret to your healing, that which Jung called the shadow. If you truly want to stop suffering, you need to know it and face it. If you find this content valuable, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. You want to stop the suffering. You want peace. Yet, over and over again, you direct your energy toward battling symptoms, anxiety, guilt, sadness, anger, as if these emotions were enemies that need to be eradicated. You treat them like defects in your system, like errors to be corrected or weaknesses to be overcome. But what you may not realize, or perhaps what you refuse to admit, is that these feelings are not the root of the problem. They're messengers. They're signals. The true adversary isn't external. It doesn't live out there in the world. It resides within you, quietly and invisibly. That's where the real danger lives, inside, in silence, in shadows. Carl Jung called this internal force the shadow. And make no mistake, everyone carries one. No one is exempt. Not you, not me, not the wisest monk or the kindest person you know. The shadow is a universal part of the human psyche. It contains everything within us that we've refused to acknowledge, everything we've suppressed, disowned, or buried. It's your hidden desires. The parts of you you've deemed unacceptable or shameful. The rage you swallow behind a polite smile. The envy you bury beneath forced admiration. The lust you mask with restraint. The ambition you disguise as humility. The fear you pretend doesn't exist. These parts didn't disappear, they were simply exiled. Banished into the unconscious, they wait. They don't die, they lurk, and they begin to influence you from the dark. The more you deny them, the more power they gain. The more power they gain, the more they dictate your actions without your knowledge. Ever lashed out and had no idea why? Ever torpedoed a promising opportunity for reasons you couldn't explain? Ever walked away from something good because a voice in you whispered, "You don't deserve this"? That's your shadow speaking. It's not random, it's not bad luck, it's not fate. It's the parts of yourself you abandoned, returning in disguise. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Read that again. What feels like destiny might actually be the consequence of your own unconscious programming. The choices you don't realize you're making. the wars you're fighting, without knowing who your real opponent is. And so suffering continues, not because you are cursed or because life is unjust, but because the shadow remains in control. And it will stay in control until you choose to face it. The hard truth is this: healing begins when you stop fighting symptoms and start confronting the cause. But let's be honest, facing your shadow is not easy. It requires bravery, deep, unsettling courage. Because to look at your shadow is to admit things about yourself you've spent a lifetime avoiding. It's standing in front of a mirror that reflects not your image but your soul, raw, unfiltered, unapologetic. It means acknowledging the monster inside you, the one you've been pretending doesn't exist. And perhaps even harder than that, it means accepting that the monster isn't evil, it's just human. It's part of you, and it always has been. But here's the paradox. The shadow isn't your enemy. It's not here to destroy you. It's here to be acknowledged. It's a forgotten part of your soul asking to come home. It doesn't want to harm you. It wants to be seen, to be heard, to be integrated. Jung never spoke of eliminating the shadow. He wasn't interested in purity. He was interested in wholeness. He believed that only by embracing the shadow could we become truly conscious, truly free. Because what you deny will control you, but what you accept transforms you. Look at myths, legends, stories that survive across cultures. The hero never wins by killing the dragon. The hero wins by confronting the dragon, understanding it, even merging with it. That dragon is the shadow, and the treasure it guards? Your full potential, your authenticity, your freedom. Suppression only makes the shadow stronger. It makes you a stranger to yourself. And self-betrayal, in the long run, is the most painful betrayal of all. You can meditate, you can read affirmations, you can chant, fast, or go on retreats. But until you've had the courage to sit down with the parts of you that terrify you, none of it will bring lasting peace. Because you're still at war with yourself. Shadow work isn't an intellectual exercise, it's an emotional reckoning. It's sitting with your shame and asking why it's there. It's feeling your anger without judging it. It's allowing your sadness to speak without trying to silence it. It's not about indulging the shadow, it's about understanding it. The irony is this: the parts of you that you're most ashamed of are often your greatest sources of power, twisted, yes, but still powerful. Your rage may be the root of your drive. Your envy might be a sign of what you're capable of but haven't dared to pursue. Your guilt could be the compass of your values. Once integrated, the shadow doesn't vanish, it evolves. It no longer needs to sabotage your life to get your attention. It becomes a source of creativity, of intuition, of wisdom. You stop being a victim of your inner world and become its master. This is not a one-time event. It's a lifelong journey. Shadows don't go away. They shift and change as you grow. Every new level of awareness brings with it a deeper layer of shadow. The work never ends, but neither does the transformation. Once integrated, the shadow doesn't vanish, it evolves. It no longer needs to sabotage your life to get your attention. It becomes a source of creativity, of intuition, of wisdom. You stop being a victim of your inner world and become its master. This is not a one-time event. It's a lifelong journey. Shadows don't go away. They shift and change as you grow. Every new level of awareness brings with it a deeper layer of shadow. The work never ends, but neither does the transformation. So, the next time suffering appears in your life, don't run from it. Ask it what it's trying to tell you. When you feel overwhelmed by emotion, don't suppress it. Listen. The shadow isn't here to punish you, it's here to wake you up. Your enemy isn't out there. It never was. The real battle is happening inside you, but so is the real liberation. Your shadow is not your flaw, it's your path. And the day you stop rejecting it is the day you begin to reclaim yourself fully, honestly, powerfully. In the next part, you will discover what to do with this shadow now that it is before you. We will talk about the path of courage, the beginning of real healing, and how to take the first step to reclaim your fragmented soul. Because knowing the shadow is just the beginning. What you do with it is what changes everything. You've already made it this far. You've had the strength to acknowledge your sense of disconnection. You've dared to stare into the depths of your shadow. And now you stand at the threshold of the most defining step, the actual confrontation. It's not enough to merely recognize the root of your pain. Awareness is only the spark. Healing, real healing, demands something more. It demands movement, a deliberate, raw, and often agonizing movement forward. Because now you're being asked to do what most never dare. Walk straight into the heart of your own inner chaos. Fully awake, eyes open, and without turning away. Carl Jung made it clear. The road that leads to the true self is not an easy one. It is a narrow and often terrifying path. and few are willing to walk it. This path demands courage, not the kind that's free from fear, but the kind that walks anyway, shaking, uncertain, but determined. To face the unconscious is to enter a place where logic won't save you, where you surrender the illusion of control. It means removing the mask you wear each day, letting go of the victim narrative you've rehearsed for years, and finally admitting that some part of your pain comes from you. And that takes brutal honesty, perhaps the most difficult kind. It means ending the habit of lying to yourself, of pretending you're fine, of distracting yourself with noise and motion. It requires you to pause and sit with the rawness that lives underneath your carefully constructed image. But how do we actually do this? How do we face the unconscious in practical terms? You start by paying attention to what your body already knows. The body never lies. It's always speaking, even when the mind refuses to listen. That persistent tightness in your chest when you're in the wrong place. The nausea when you betray your values. The exhaustion that sets in after performing happiness. Those aren't random. Those are messages. The unconscious doesn't want to ruin you, it wants to wake you up. It's sending signals not to punish you, but to preserve you. Begin with small, deliberate actions. Keep a journal where you record your dreams, even fragments. Reflect on the emotional patterns that keep showing up. Pay attention to the moments when you overreact or shut down. Each emotional spike is like a flare shot up from the unconscious, pointing you towards something unresolved. When something disrupts your peace, ask yourself, what is this trying to show me? What part of me is being triggered? Don't rush to interpret. Don't judge what arises. Just listen, with presence, with openness, with the willingness to hear the truth, not the version that comforts, but the one that confronts. One of the most transformative tools on this path is honest writing. Set aside time daily, 10 minutes, 20, whatever you can manage, and write as though you're revealing your soul to yourself. Not polished, not performative. Just write the things you've been too ashamed to feel, too afraid to admit. Let the words out, the ones that scare you, the ones you've buried. Because once they're freed from silence, they no longer control you from the shadows. And then there's the mirror. Not the literal one, but the therapeutic mirror through a therapist, a coach, or a trusted guide who can reflect your truth back to you without judgment. Jung never saw the unconscious as garbage to be discarded. He saw it as intelligent, alive, purposeful. It's not trying to hurt you, it's trying to teach you. But you have to stop filtering the message through your defenses. You have to stop explaining away the signs. You have to begin hearing what's really being said. To stop suffering, you must stop running. That's the paradox. The more you flee from pain, the more it clings to you. But when you face it, when you stop, turn around, and meet it directly, something changes. The pain starts to shift. It begins to lose its power. And then you uncover a truth that most never realize. The pain you feared so deeply was always a doorway. A portal to what? To your truth, to your authenticity, to a life that isn't ruled by avoidance or self-betrayal. Jung believed that wholeness doesn't come from perfection, it comes from integration, from welcoming every disowned part of yourself back into the light. That includes the angry parts, the bitter parts, the scared inner child. Not fixing them, but hearing them, holding them. True courage is sitting in that discomfort and choosing not to numb it. It's looking in the mirror and saying, I was part of this, and then choosing to become something different. Healing begins when you stop expecting it to be clean or linear. It's messy. It's cyclical. It requires patience and an ongoing willingness to choose presence over escape. But it does happen. And the more you show up for yourself, the more you learn to trust yourself. And with trust comes strength. A strength rooted not in pretending you're invincible, but in knowing you're not and choosing to show up anyway. So keep going. Keep writing. Keep listening. Keep choosing to look inward when everything tells you to look away. Because beyond the fear, beneath the pain, and on the other side of the shadow, is you. Not the version the world taught you to become, but the version you were always meant to be. And that is exactly what we will explore in the next part. What is the true role of pain in your life? Why does it insist on appearing even when everything seems to be under control? And most importantly, how can it become your most powerful ally on the path to liberation? Are you ready to find out? Then continue with me. Most people spend a lifetime trying to escape pain. They numb it with pills, avoid it through endless distractions, lose themselves in shallow relationships, and chase fleeting high-squick hits of dopamine disguised as happiness. Social media becomes a stage where achievements and smiles are constantly displayed, but behind the curtain, there's often a quiet war being fought against a persistent ache that won't go away. But here's a hard truth, one that we often wish we could unhear. The more we try to outrun pain, the faster it finds us. Because pain was never meant to be eradicated. It's not a flaw in the system of life. Pain is a messenger. It is here not to destroy us, but to awaken us. Carl Jung, one of the most profound psychological thinkers of our time, understood this deeply. He believed that suffering is not a failure of life, but a demand for transformation, a sacred invitation. Pain, in its rawest form, is the soul crying out, "Something here isn't right." It's the inner voice, desperate to be heard, that tells us something is broken and longs to be made whole again. When we experience pain, emotional or physical, it's rarely random. Every ache carries a whisper, every heartbreak a message. The discomfort is trying to lead us somewhere deeper, somewhere real. And the sooner we stop treating pain like an enemy, the sooner we can begin to understand it as a powerful guide, a compass. Take a moment and reflect, when has life really pushed you to change? Was it when everything was going smoothly, when you felt safe and secure and in control? Or was it in the chaos, the breakdowns, the heartaches? It's almost always the latter. True transformation never begins in comfort. It begins in discomfort, in suffering, in collapse. Because it's in those very moments that the psyche cries out not for relief, but for rebirth. Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." That means pain must be faced, not bypassed. It must be experienced in its fullness, traversed, not escaped. It must be allowed to teach us. Let's ground this in something real. Imagine someone who spends years denying their own needs, trying to be everything to everyone else. Always agreeable, always smiling, always saying yes. On the surface, they're the perfect friend, the ideal partner, the reliable coworker. But slowly, beneath the facade, something starts to break. They begin feeling anxious for no reason, exhausted all the time. A sadness creeps in without explanation. They see doctors, get blood tests, are prescribed medication, but the symptoms persist. Why? Because the body is speaking what the soul is suppressing. This is pain not as pathology, but as protest. The person is not broken, they're betrayed by their own silence. When you begin to view pain as a symbolic language, the whole landscape of your inner world shifts. What once looked like random suffering begins to reveal a deeper order. What seemed like cruelty becomes clarity. Pain becomes direction. It starts pointing to something essential. And as strange as it may sound, it is in listening to your pain, truly listening, that healing begins. Not because you've gotten rid of the suffering, but because you've let it teach you. Pain becomes a teacher, a guide, even a healer. It brings you to your knees, yes, but it also opens your heart. It softens you, deepens you, reconstructs the parts of you that you didn't even know were misaligned. This is not about romanticizing pain or suffering. This isn't a call to glorify trauma. It's a reminder that resisting what hurts can sometimes prolong the hurt, that avoiding pain often multiplies it. But when we face it consciously, with honesty and courage, something miraculous happens. We change, not just on the surface, but at the core. Transformation through pain doesn't mean you become someone else. It means you finally come home to yourself. You become whole, integrated, awake. Carl Jung emphasized that the process of individuation, the journey to becoming who you truly are, requires facing the shadow, facing the pain. It's uncomfortable, sometimes terrifying, but it's real. And in that raw realness, there is immense freedom. So what does it mean to live this way? It means taking responsibility for your inner life. It means understanding that running from your pain is running from yourself, that ignoring your wounds is neglecting your own evolution, that silencing your suffering is silencing your truth. But if you can pause long enough to listen, not judge, not fix right away, but listen, you may find that the pain you've been avoiding is actually the doorway to your next becoming. It's not about eliminating pain from life. That's not possible. Life includes pain. But it is about alchemizing it, turning it into insight, into compassion, into depth, into wisdom. Pain doesn't mean life is against you. Often, it means life is trying to wake you up. So the next time you feel it, that familiar ache, that tightness in your chest, that unbearable sadness, don't just push it down. Don't race to numb it. Instead, breathe, sit with it. Ask it what it wants to tell you. Because sometimes the most painful moments are the ones that birth the truest versions of who we are. And when we allow pain to speak, to lead, to transform us, we stop fearing it. And in that space, something beautiful happens. We begin to live not from avoidance, but from awareness. Not from fear, but from presence. Not as fragmented beings hiding from our truth, but as whole humans finally return to ourselves. In the next part, we will talk about this place, the other side of pain. What happens when you stop resisting and start integrating everything you have rejected in yourself? True healing is not the absence of pain, it is the transformation of pain into awareness, and that is what awaits you next. There comes a moment after countless internal battles and emotional reckonings when something within you begins to shift. It's not explosive. There are no blinding lights or thunderous epiphanies. Instead, it's something far more delicate, far more profound. It's like a silent breeze brushing through the corridors of your soul, gentle, almost imperceptible, but with the power to change the entire atmosphere of your inner world. That's the moment when resistance softens. And perhaps for the first time in your life, you stop fighting yourself. You stop denying, avoiding, suppressing, and instead you begin to feel whole, not fixed, not flawless, but whole. But what does it truly mean to become whole? To become whole is to gather all your scattered pieces, the bright and the broken, and welcome them home. It means looking into the mirror of your own soul and embracing every facet of your being. Not just the polished parts, not just the traits you're proud of. It means honoring the shadows, the flaws, the fears, the fury, the grief. It means recognizing that your anger, your sorrow, your shame, even your guilt, they aren't signs of your failure. They're signs that you've lived, that you've felt deeply, that you've survived. Wholeness is not the absence of suffering. It is the refusal to exile parts of yourself just because they're uncomfortable. It's the moment you stop trying to be perfect. Stop reaching for the unreachable image of who you think you're supposed to be. You let go of the masks. You stop pretending. And in that honesty, something beautiful begins. Carl Jung referred to this process as individuation, a term often misunderstood. It's not about becoming special or separate. It's not about standing out. Individuation, as Jung saw it, is the journey of becoming who you truly are beneath the layers of conditioning, pain, and persona. It is the integration of opposites, the light and the dark, the conscious and the unconscious. It is the transformation from fragmentation into authenticity. True authenticity doesn't emerge from pride. It isn't about ego or superiority. It is born of quiet acceptance. It's the grace of looking at yourself raw, unedited, and saying, "This is me, and this is enough." This is not a journey of finding yourself in some faraway place or through some external achievement. It's about uncovering the truth that was always there, buried beneath the rubble of expectation and fear. It's about walking into the ruins of your own psyche and rebuilding brick by brick something sacred. And here's the paradox. The moment you embrace your wounds is the moment they begin to heal. The moment you welcome your darkness is the moment it stops controlling you. When you stop seeing pain as a problem and begin to see it as a path, everything changes. You start to notice that your pain was never the enemy. It was the teacher. The very thing that brought you to this edge, this threshold, where transformation becomes possible. You look back, not with regret, but with reverence. You see that every breakdown, every moment of despair, every emotional collapse had meaning. Not because suffering is noble, but because it stripped away the illusion. It forced you to face the truth. It revealed what was false, what was borrowed, what no longer served you. And what was left was real, uncomfortable, yes, vulnerable always, but real. And this truth demands something of you. It requires presence. It asks you to show up fully, no longer hiding behind personas or playing roles. You become aware. Aware of what lifts your soul and what drains it. Aware of the people who nourish your spirit and those who chip away at it. You stop tolerating what once seemed bearable just to keep the peace. You stop saying yes when every cell in your body screams no. And more importantly, you finally say yes to yourself. This shift doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It's subtle, quiet, but it's irreversible. It's not that you become someone new. You stop betraying the person you've always been. You stop abandoning yourself in order to be accepted. And in that reconnection, you touch something sacred. Self-love, not the conditional kind. Not the kind that waits for success or healing, but the kind that was always yours. You realize something astonishing. You didn't need to become perfect to be worthy of love. You didn't need to erase your past or fix every flaw. What you needed was acceptance. What you needed was presence. What you needed was to stop looking outside for a peace that was always waiting within. But be cautious, because this is the point where many people pause. The pain has eased, the worst storms have passed. Life feels lighter, more fluid, and so it becomes tempting to settle here, to rest in the comfort of self-acceptance. But Jung warned, use individuation is not only personal. True healing doesn't end with the self. there is still one more step. You must now bring what you found back into the world. You must turn healing into contribution. The inner journey, though deeply personal, is not complete until it becomes relational, until it becomes collective, until it feeds something greater than you. You begin to realize wholeness is not for you alone. You've walked through fire, you've faced the mirror, you've stitched yourself together piece by piece. And now, your very presence carries something powerful. It carries light for others who are still lost in the dark. It carries wisdom, not the intellectual kind, but the kind etched into your soul through lived experience. And that's the other side of pain. It's not simply relief. It's not merely peace. It's purpose. When you integrate your wounds, you don't just heal, you awaken. You develop the clarity to see the pain in others without judgment. You cultivate the strength to hold space for those still breaking. And you gain the humility to know that the work is never really over. Because the path of wholeness isn't a destination. It's a lifelong unfolding. You walk it every day, not in perfection, but in presence. Not with certainty, but with courage. And as you do, you carry with you the most sacred truth of all, that everything you once ran from was guiding you home. What do you do with your light after crossing your darkness? How do you live now that you are awake? This is what we will explore in the final part, the conscious choice to live differently, to not just survive, but to exist with purpose, with awareness, with responsibility. Because now that you have been reborn, life demands more from you. Now that you know, you can't go back to pretending you don't. You've heard every word, felt each truth cut deep like a blade, and still you remained. That alone sets you apart from most. When truth starts to sting, the majority turn away. They choose the comfort of sleep. But you didn't. You stayed. And because you did, a choice now stands before you. To keep repeating the same old patterns that weigh you down, or to finally rise and take ownership of your life. It doesn't matter what's been done to you. It doesn't matter how deeply you've suffered. What matters now is what you choose to do with all of it. Because the pain you've carried for years has the power to become strength. The emptiness you've tried to fill with people and distractions can transform into a fertile, meaningful silence. And the traumas that once defined you don't have to remain a prison. They can become the very foundation of your greatest freedom. But there's something essential you need to understand. The awareness that has awakened within you now comes at a cost. Because once you've seen the truth, you can't unsee it. Ignorance is no longer a comfortable place to hide. You've been called to operate on a higher level, and stepping into this new level comes with responsibility. It asks that you stop betraying yourself, that you no longer settle for less than you truly deserve, that you stop hiding behind old fears or familiar excuses. You don't have to be completely ready. No one ever truly is. What matters is your decision, the choice you make each day to live with intention, to face yourself honestly, with clarity, with compassion, and most of all, with action. Because knowledge, if it isn't acted upon, becomes nothing more than another way to deceive yourself. Carl Jung once said that individuation, the path to becoming wholeness, a journey that lasts a lifetime. And maybe today marked your very first true step onto that path. Maybe for the first time you realize that you are not broken, you are becoming. You are in motion, still being shaped. And that suffering you endured wasn't a punishment, it was a summons, a deep cry from your soul calling you to return home. Now tell me, what part of this video struck you the most? Which truth reached in and shook something within you? Share it in the comments below. Write it out like a promise to yourself. Because when you put it into words, you give it weight. And who knows, what you share might be exactly what someone else needs to hear right now. And if this video moved you, challenged you, or stirred something, awakened, stop here. The next video matters just as much. It picks up right where this one leaves off. I'll meet you there.